Hello my lovely sewing friends, it's Catherine here and welcome to Serenity Sews, my YouTube video. Once again, thank you all so much for joining in, watching me, subscribing to my channel, and if you haven't done that yet, I would be so appreciative if you would and help me to bring you themes and sewing goodness straight to you for both your enjoyment, but also sometimes to learn things that perhaps you've thought about, and I have that little tip or little bit of knowledge that I can share with you. So welcome, and today I'm going to talk to you about my finally finished sew, which, as you can see just behind me there, is my trench coat. And I won't lie, this has been a labour of love, and I'll put in some photographs so that you can see what it looks like on, but I'm going to go through some of the things that I found and some of the pattern information for you. So to start with, it is a McCall's pattern and it is M8246. You can see that there. There are two versions. One is a hip length jacket, trench jacket, and the other is the full length version. And this is a pattern by Melissa Watson, and Melissa Watson is part of the Palmer Pletch fitting and tissue fitting particularly genre. And I'd recommend you have a look at their work, and I know they're on Instagram. I also know that there's an awful lot of information on their website, but they specialise in tissue fitting, and that is across the board, whatever your size. So there's something in there for everyone. I have the Fit for Real People book, and that is an absolute treasure trove of information. Oh, sorry, before I go further, just to tell you what I'm wearing. This is a Style Art Juliet top, and I think you've seen it before. It was one of my absolute loves. Old fabric, got this from Croft Mill many moons ago, but it's a favourite. So just go back and look at one of the earlier videos. I think it's My Style Art Love if you want to know more about this pattern. I'll put the link at the end. So moving on to the the choice of pattern. I wanted a trench coat. I particularly wanted an oversized one because I want to wear it all year round. I don't want it just to be for spring and for wearing you know, at a particular time of year. I wanted to be able to put a heavier jumper under it, a sweatshirt or whatever, but I didn't want it to be dowdy. Now, one of the things it says on this pattern is, and this is Melissa Watson saying this, she wanted to make this in an alternative fabric, and she made it in wool. So it's not in a kind of waxed cotton or a waterproof material. This is particularly meant to be oversized, but also in an alternative fabric. And you could, I guess, put a quilted lining in it. You could even put a Sherpa lining in it if you wanted. But I just stuck with the traditional lining for my needs. There are so many interesting parts of this pattern, and I'll come to that a little bit later on. So the pattern is sized for a 6 right the way up to a 24, and the measurements that suits are a bust this is size 6, a bust of 30.5 inches, waist 23, hip 32, right the way up to 24, which they say a bust of 46, waist of 39, hip of 48. However, when you come to the finished garment measurements, which are always my go-to, the size 6 is a bust finished measurement of 43, and the size 24 is a 58.5 inches. Now, I looked at the size 14, which seemed to suit my measurements, and the finished bust measurement was 48.5 inches. So that for me is more than adequate. So that was the size I stuck with, and I cut out my pattern accordingly, and I made a toile actually of the upper part. So I just got some very basic canvas, I think, and toiled it up in that, and it seemed to offer me the right degree of movement. I knew that I was going to be able to get a jumper on plus the coat, so I was happy with that, and that was before I started. Now, it is a fabric hungry pattern, I will say, and for view B it asks for 60 inches. This is with the belt, 4 meters and 3/8. That is, as you can imagine, quite a lot of fabric, but when you consider there are 20 pattern pieces to view B, and so there's an awful lot of almost like smaller pieces that require putting on the grain line in a certain way. So I went with it, and I chose to use this beautiful John Kaldor Marmaris. It is a stretch cotton, but it's only about 3% lycra in it, but I think you'll agree it's a gorgeous colour. But I'll come back to that in a minute, and I will put it on in a little while so you can see better. So the tissue fitting advice is actually excellent, and I would recommend that if you choose to use one of her patterns, just have a read, because she's got quite a comprehensive section on one complete page actually, advising you how to tissue fit to your body for that particular pattern. And again, golden information here about getting the right size. She says always measure your high bust measurement to choose your pattern, and she shows you just there how to do that, and that is perfect advice. I always use a high bust measurement when I'm uncertain, but always have found that fits me so much better than if I choose a full bust measurement. So I think the reading of this was important before I started, and unusually for me, I did, because normally I go straight into it. I know how to sew, I'll do it my way, la. But actually I wanted to make sure that I understood the pattern and I understood the intricacies of making this the garment that I wanted it to be. So let me show you some of the details. Okay. So what you have on this garment is your traditional tabs and button with fastening around the wrist. You have the back storm flap, belt loops, front storm flaps, pocket that is setted, as you can see, a lovely angle there on the slant, and perhaps, I'm sorry, this is making a little bit of noise here, Perhaps this, out of everything, is my favourite part of this coat. Just look at that. That's a hidden, I suppose it's like a kick pleat really, but how ingenious is that? And I so loved seeing that. As you can see, very traditional, and makes it just that little bit more unique. Now, the pattern has a 3-part sleeve, so you can see how that works. I know this is not a brilliant colour, but you've got an upper, an outer and an undersleeve portion. On the pattern, what she'd done is put an inverted pleat down the outer seam line. Now I did do that, but actually what I found was, particularly with this fabric, it kind of stuck out and I didn't like that look. So I ended up sewing that down and leaving it as a normal seam. But in something like a wool, it would probably offer a very different look to the garment. But I found that I didn't like that when I'd prepped it and I'd made all those sleeve parts come together. Okay, so let me tell you about my preparation as much for this coat. An awful lot of marking the pattern pieces is required, and I used a combination of factors for that. I used tailor's tacks, but I also used my Chaco chalk marker. And I made sure I did everything in sections as I went along. I also block fused the coat, and bearing in mind this has a slight stretch on this fabric, didn't really want it to stretch out. So I used a woven cotton tailoring interfacing to block fuse the whole of the body of the coat. I didn't do the arms because I didn't want them to stand out. Maybe I should have done a portion of them, but all I normally do on coat and jackets is I use interfacing around the bottom portion of the cuff so that I get a nice crisp, I suppose, hemline around it. So as you can see there, it finishes it off really nicely. I used some other tailoring interfacing for around the collar and for just coming round where the collar comes down, so that it actually takes the shape of the collar nicely. So that required additional tailoring. What I do like is how on the under collar, I'm not sure if you can see that, I don't think you can, what the pattern has you do is a series of lines. This is before you join the upper and the under collar together. A series of sewing lines about 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 an inch apart. And what that does, it actually gives body to the collar, and when you do turn it over, as you can see there, it keeps the shape beautifully. So I really like that, and I think I'll use that again. I'd forgotten that little tailoring tip, which I have seen before. What else can I say? Oh yes, the lining. Now this lining, I think you'll agree, is absolutely fabulous. I bought this probably 2 years ago now from Fabworks. I had 2 meters, wasn't sure what I was going to use it for, but I knew that I would make something with it that stood out, a standout piece one day. And this was it. The only problem was it didn't have enough for the arms, as you can see there. So I did give them a call. They remembered the fabric, but they didn't have any scraps around there. So I decided just to use an alternative for the arms. So I'm not too fussed about that. You don't see it. And the main body of the coat is this gorgeous. It's a kind of twill, really nice weight lining fabric. And I think they're parakeets actually, and budgerigars, but absolutely glorious. So, would I make this coat again? No, I wouldn't. I was so glad to finish it. I say no. I might, if I'm feeling particularly brutal to myself, make it in a wool fabric. I don't think I'll need to have another full-length coat like this. However, I might make the shorter length coat. I do like that length. I think it's quite flattering. And if you wanted a lightweight jacket, then yes, that would be perfect. I think the colour of the coat is exactly what I wanted. It's not everyone's taste, I know that, and some of you out there will think, oh my goodness, I wouldn't have chosen that kind of colour. But it is exactly what I wanted. I love it, and I know that it will suit what I wear, but also other garments that I make. It's easy to wear in that it's slightly oversized. You can wrap it round you. You can buckle the belt if you want to. And as I said, I am going to show you in a moment or two how that looks. It's not a beginner pattern by any means. It is not even, I think, an intermediate. I do think you could do it if you have time and you want to learn tailoring techniques. I think it's not beyond anyone. But this took me about a month, and that was on off because there is so much detail to do as you work your way through it. So with those thoughts, with those kind of positives, but also the negatives as well in terms of what this pattern offers. My favourite parts of this are actually the back hidden button pleat. I absolutely love that. I love the fabric, both that I've chosen. And I love the fact that this coat will last me for ad infinitum, I guess. And I'm really pleased with it. So I'm just going to stop here, put it on and see what you think. So here we are. I'm kind of bundled up in it, and I know you won't be able to see all of it on me, but I think you can get a fair idea. As I say, it's oversized, you can see that, but that's what I wanted. I love the collar. It is a real feature there. I did manage to make my own belt, and I did manage, oh, I haven't opened that one, not to worry, to find a little bit of the lining fabric to underline most of the parts I wanted to, as you can see there with my storm flaps. The cuffs are just perfect. I did shorten them by 2 inches altogether, although perhaps I could have just done a ½ inch more, but no, I'm happy more or less with that. I used these, I don't know whether I can, oh, I can get them there, look. I use these tortoiseshell buttons, which are quite traditional with trench coats, and I managed to get, again from So Essential, a belt buckle, which perfectly matched, just the right size for the belt I needed. I did shorten the belt. The belt was about twice as long as you can see on me. I didn't really want that flapping around because I know that would drive me mad. Open, you can see how it falls with the lining. I just really love it. I know that I'm going to wear it a huge amount, and yeah, that's all I can say about it really. I am hoping to get some full-length photographs, and I'll put them in at the end so that you can see that, and you can then appreciate what it looks like on me. Remember, I'm 5'2", probably less now. I used to be 5'4". How can you lose 2 inches over your lifetime? But I have. So I am short by comparison, and this pattern was made for a block of a 5'6" woman, so that does give you some idea. So I'm going to leave it there. Thank you so much for all of your love and support, your kind comments, taking the trouble to watch. If you haven't subscribed to me, I'd really appreciate it if you would. And if you want more of what I do, please let me know. And please let me know anything along the sewing lines that you would like me to share with you on these videos. I'm always thinking about what I can do next. I have a few ideas, but it's always great to hear what you want. So I'm going to say goodbye for now. Keep being kind, keep showing compassion, keep sewing, and I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye.